So today is day 29. It's my husband's birthday today. I won't tell you how old he is, he'd be embarrassed. Anyway, today we have iridescent dragonfly at dusk, and I'm going to be using some masking fluid for this, for the design that I have in mind. So I'm going to use hot press paper, which is smoother, and the other reason for using hot press today, if you have it, if you don't have it, don't worry, it won't make a big difference, but I might as well since I do. The other reason is because I'm going to draw some lines on the wings of the dragonfly, probably using a fine pen, you know. I'm not quite sure what one I'm going to use yet, I haven't decided. Depends how the painting goes. And pens always work better on smoother paper, and the hot press is smoother. So this is a block of MEEDEN watercolor paper, hot press 10 by 7 inches, 100% cotton, glued all round so that it is not going to cockle or buckle when I paint on it, even if I do wet in wet. And I've got my little dishes out here for my paint selection today, and these are paints that I might use. I think I will, I'm planning to do so. We've got burnt sienna, I've got neutral tint, I've got black, ultramarine, blue. This is the Old Holland one, which is supposed to be super granulating, so it's supposed to be good, and I happen to have it, so why not? This is white, I don't know if I'm going to need that or not, white gouache. This is raw umber, which is a kind of neutral dark brown. This is opera rose. Everyone's got that colour, it looks vile, but you always use it mixed with something else, and that something else in this case will probably be this, which is quinacridone gold. And I've got buff titanium here because that's a very handy neutral light colour as well. That kind of complements the neutral tint. These two are you know, are quite an advantage when you're doing this kind of painting. They can be. I've got my my Winsor & Newton watercolor medium art masking fluid. That's a lot to say, isn't it? But this is what I'm going to use to mask out the areas I want to keep from being painted as I do the background, because I'm going to do an overall background for the whole thing. So that's that. And I've got two old brushes here. This is an old Drawwell brush, which I decided it was going to sacrifice its life for masking fluid, so I've put a piece of tape on the end here which has MF, which stands for masking fluid, and so if that gets ruined it doesn't matter because I've got lots of others. And then this one, which is an old oil painting bright, which means a small, well, relatively small brush, and that is ruined, but that's gone all rubbery, but that would probably give me some interesting lines if I wanted it to. And then I've got my MEEDEN mixing palette here, and I'm going to leave those colours on there because I'm going to incorporate that into the background. So first thing to do is to roughly draw my dragonfly, and I will move my water and these paints back a bit so that I can get the camera on the whole piece of paper. Come on everybody, move over please. There we go. That's it. Okay, you can go over here for a minute because I'm right-handed, so I need a little bit of space here. Okay, so let me see. I've got my photo to the right of me, and I'm going to put the dragonfly about here. And we'll start off with his eyes, which I'm using a Derwent graphic 5B, that means it's very soft. I'm hoping that it will erase when it comes to it. So we'll do this as the eyes. And then it's segmented. So I'm going to just draw in where I want the body to go. And then segments we can really put in later in detail. So because we're going to paint this, not draw it. So I'll just mark in roughly where that's going to go. I think this is going to be okay. Then the wings, one wing comes out from here, it's curved and goes up, and then starts quite close to there, and then goes across, and then there's bend here, goes up and then round. And this one goes like that and like that, so 2 scoops, and then it goes like this and then up to being quite close to where it started. And then the second one overlaps a little bit and then goes like that to about the same distance and round, and it's a bit bigger, so it comes back to about here. This one starts here and goes down, comes from here, goes thinner, and then like that. So there we are, that's our dragonfly. Now, for this particular composition, what we have is some, I suppose they're probably reeds. So coming up in the foreground here and going behind the dragonfly. And I can take one up here like this. Okay, we're going to keep that simple, but we'll have another one down here. And then maybe one going across here like this. It's entirely up to you where you put them. Now the fun bit now is that we're going to get our masking fluid, and I think it's a good idea to tip a little bit of it out, because you don't want to contaminate your bottle. So if you can ever get it open, oh God, tip a little bit out into a dish like this, and then you can pick it up and do what you want to do. Now, I might have to experiment with this, but what I wanted to do was, I want to do the wings and these reeds. So we'll start with the reeds. You could use any implement for this. Some people have suggested using toothpicks for fine lines, which is probably quite a reasonably good idea. I think that would work. And you can use, there are special rubbery things, and I can't remember what they're called at the moment, but people use them for smoothing out pastel. Oh, what are they called? I can't remember. I'll look it up and I'll put it in the description below. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, but you can use those, because the advantage of that is that the latex or whatever it is that they use for this masking fluid will rub off of those without any problems, whereas I know, and people have told me, and I know this, and I've tried it, so don't bother to tell me again, she says in her querulous old lady voice. I know already about the washing up liquid and all the rest of it, but I find if I put washing up liquid on my brush to try to stop the masking fluid from sticking, that I get bubbles in my masking, and I don't want bubbles in my masking, so I don't do that. I would sooner throw the brush away, and I'm sorry if people find that offensive, but there we are, that's all there is to it. Right, so now that's going to dry, and I will wash that off so that it will live to paint another day. And then I'm going to dip my pointed brush into the masking fluid, and I'm going to mask out. My voice sounds very querulous and shaky this morning, I don't know why. perhaps it's because it's my husband's birthday and we're both getting old. So I'm just going to mask out these wings. And then once I've done that, we will have to let it dry. What am I going to do? Am I not? Shall I not? I'm just trying to think about because this is going to be darker and the background is going to be darker. I'm just trying to think whether or not to mask out the body of the dragonfly. Maybe I will just in case. Maybe, might as well mask the body as well. So most of it, just the middle bit really. That'll do. Okay, now we wash that out, and with any luck, if we've been quick, that will be as good as new. It's really when you let it start to dry, if you're doing a lot of masking. I did some paintings, I remember I told you about when I was painting with Hugh Brading, the New Zealand artist. He used masking fluid a lot in some of his paintings, and they were quite big and complicated, and it took a long time to put the masking fluid on, very painstakingly, and by the time you'd finished, you'd definitely given your brush a real workout. So that's a different kettle of fish altogether. This has been restored to its proper state because I didn't let it dry. Now we have to let this dry. There's a few little dots there, that's quite nice. They will look okay, and I'll put the hairdryer on it and come back once I've dried it. Come on, you can do it. That's it. Okay, now I will just remember to tip the remnants of my masking fluid back because I didn't contaminate it with anything, so that's fine. I can't get all of it, but most of it is fine. Should be all right. It won't have started to go off yet and set, so it's okay to put it back. But if you forget it and you leave it and it starts to go, starts to dry, then don't put it back into your bottle. You just have to sacrifice that little bit, otherwise it probably will put lumps into your reserve bottle, so that's probably not worth messing about with, really, to be honest. Okay, so this is my remnant from the last painting I did, which was the glasses. I think I did 2 glasses with champagne in, so that's nice and pale. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my cat's tongue brush, because this is quite a nice one for doing backgrounds with. This is the Craft & Mo Diane Antone brush, which you may or may not have. If you haven't got that, then you might have a nice big round like that of any brand, doesn't matter what. You might have a mop brush, you could use that. I often use that too, but I don't need that much water capacity for this particular painting, so either of these would do fine. I'll use this because most people haven't seen the cat's tongue being used very often. It's an interesting shape, it's very thin on that side and fat on that side, so if you were being careful and you were going to paint around your dragonfly, which you could, if you don't have any masking fluid, do that. Don't try and do it with masking tape. That won't work, it's too fiddly. But you can get a nice straight line using the edge of this flat brush. It's easier than a round brush to do that with, because I don't know why, but it is. But I've masked it so it doesn't matter, so I'm going to go over the whole thing, but I'm not going to go over it all in one colour. I'm going to pick up these nice subtle greeny grey colours down here and drop those in, and maybe a little bit more green, sort of neutral green like this, and we'll just put it in dabs like that. Don't go like this. I don't know how many times I've said that, and I will continue to say it, because that's ugly. Painting, I think, should be done like this, and we'll leave a little bit of light in the middle there, so we'll just rinse out our brush and kind of blend those together lightly with relatively clean water. Okay, just like that. And then as we go up on this side here, I've got, oh, you can't see that, I've got a mixture of ultramarine and black there, or neutral tint it probably is actually, and so the neutral tint is here, Neutral tint has 4 different colours in it to make it neutral. So we're going up here, and it doesn't matter if we go over the edge, and we can just darken it up a bit with a bit more neutral tint, a bit more blue, until it gets to its maximum. Perhaps I'll put a bit of black in too, just to make it a little bit darker up here, and we'll come over here. We might need to put 2 layers because watercolor is renowned for being reluctant to hold its intensity. Okay, so, whoops, perhaps not quite so green. We'll go greenish behind there. And over here, we want a little bit more of this color in the sort of bank. This is kind of water, right? And then as we come up here, it's still blue, but then we're going to excitingly put in some pink, knocked back significantly with quinacridone, and we'll drop that in here and let that blend, because that's the light coming out of the darkness. And because this paper is good, you can rock up the line that you've got there on your background, and you can make it blend and give you some lights there. And we'll take that over there, lift that out a bit, and just keep that nice and fluid. And I'll let that dry, and then I will put some more darks in on that area there behind the dragonfly, but I can't do it now because it's wettish, and you get this very interesting, slightly patchy sort of mixtures in the background when you use hot press paper, but I really personally like that look. It's different, and yeah, I enjoy doing that. So that's going to dry now, and then I'll come back and I'll darken this and this, all the blue bits a little bit. I'll probably leave that the way it is, and then we will I might add a bit more quinacridone gold to here as a sort of transparent layer, a glaze, and then we'll paint the dragonfly and the reeds when we've taken off the masking fluid. So I'll just turn you off for a second and dry. Okay, that's dry, and I've decided that I want to put a little bit of indigo in here. And so this is Old Holland Indigo Extra. You can get this from Jackson's in the UK. All the Old Holland colours, I think most of them anyway, are available there. I shouldn't be using that brush. So yeah, I think some of them are online. I think Dick Blick have got them as well, I think. Okay, so I'm just picking up a little bit of indigo. That's quite greenish, and mix that with ultramarine and neutral tint. I'm hoping that's going to give us the colour I'm looking for. Yeah, I think so. So we'll pop that in there. Take that right down to here. Soften that line a bit, and as I said, I think I'll put a little bit more quinacridone gold over the pink, so it looks a bit more light. I think that will be okay. Okay, and now I'll let that dry, and then we'll take off the masking fluid. Okay, so I'm going to just try and take this off now, and I can probably benefit from not having too much paint on my fingers to do this with, otherwise we'll get a mess. But you know, life's too short, really. So we'll take off all of this. You can use an eraser if you want. If I've got one, I'll try it. I think thumb works better personally, but I suppose the benefit of using an eraser is that it tends to rub off the pencil marks as well. So that's, you do want that, so, you know. Okay, so let's keep going with the thumb. That one's got paint on it, so I'm going to make a mess, so I think I probably ought to try to clean my fingers a bit. I'm in a very mucky mood this morning. Let's see if that helps. Just wondering where the tree men are this morning. They don't seem to have arrived yet. Okay, so let's keep going with this. I could cut the video here and just come back with it all done, but I think you might as well watch, because then you get more of an idea what I put myself through in order to produce these videos. Which pay the bills to have the trees chopped down. I'm sure you're happy to think that when you pay your subscription, you are contributing to the maintenance of the countryside in Brittany, to the feeding of the pig and to the feeding of the wild birds, which we spend a fortune on actually, thanks to you, and try to keep nature going. Right, okay, so we've got what you could call a fairly loose background, and we have our silhouette in white of the dragonfly. So let's see, what should we do first? Maybe we'll paint the reeds first, so I will find myself a reasonably small brush, because it's not a big area that we need to cover. I tell you what, I'll go for a maestro. And then I'm going to pick up some light green and or mix some light green. Vary the colour as we go down by charging it. That's what it's called, apparently, according to Zoltan Sabo. And we want to vary the colour of this reed as we go down. A bit of shadow from behind. Yellowish there, why not? The quinacridone gold looks good against this purpley sort of thing. And we can put a bit of pink with the blue. So this one here, for example, could go pinkish. Plenty of pink here in our Opera Rose reservoir. Change the colour again. Colour, but this is greyish. And what we're looking for is a sort of variety of colours, contrasting with the background so we can see what's going on there. And this one's going to be more quinacridone going up there, and this one will give it a little bit more of a greenish hue. This is a really fun way to paint grasses, especially if you're not so happy with the flicking process. And then you can come back and put some shadow on alternate sides to give it more shape. A bit more shadow here where that one's supposed to be behind. Any old thing here, or you can just leave them plain. You don't have to make it darker in any places. You don't have to do that at all. Okay, so that's that. Now for the head of the Dragonfly, we're going to use some black for the eye part, and I'm going to leave a little kind of circle here of light. So we'll make that roundish, and then this one too. Reflecting light. Okay, so that's the two eyes. Now the body is kind of phthalo blue sort of colour, so I think this would do. So we have a little bit here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sort of variedly paint with neutral tint, black, phthalo turquoise or whatever that is there, going down and sort of lifting out one side. To make it lighter on one side than on the other. That's the idea anyway. Okay, and then we will do some line work on this afterwards. Then I want to put just some very light colours, it doesn't really matter what, anything. And this is where if you wanted to, you could use iridescent medium on this, if you wanted, and we sort of put some blue and some pink. Be careful with that pink, but it can look very pretty. And some beige. And maybe this colour, turquoisey thing. Maybe a little bit of brownish pink here. Make it a little bit sort of patchy sort of thing. And this one could be a little bit of green in it, a bit of blue, like that. However you want to do it. So we have that now, and now we need to dry it, and then we'll come back with a pen. I'll probably use a fine one. I need probably a 0.1 like this. Yeah, that one will probably work. So I'll dry that with a hairdryer and then come back and do the next. Okie dokie. So can you see everything? Let me make sure you can. We can even out our outside edges a little bit if we want, and then we can come down here and just sort of outline. I think I might use a slightly thicker one for the body. I think that's going to be too, yeah. So we have a kind of center line. Each one of these segments has a kind of center line. We don't have to put all these details in if you don't want to. You can just do them very loose. And if you look at some of my other Dragonfly paintings that I've done in the past, you'll see that they're much looser than this. This is kind of halfway, I think you could say, sort of. It's not absolute detail, but it's more detailed than those ones. So what we might want to do is we might want to put a little bit more shadow in there. Maybe I'll do it on this side, so one side's more shadowy than the other, so we'll just do that. Okay, and then I'm going to try this point one, but if I have to get up and look for another one, don't be surprised. Now, first of all, we'll go around the outside edge of the wings, just following what we did before. And this is where it doesn't matter if your hand's a bit shaky, because that's actually the way they are. Your hand, I mean the dragonfly wings. There we go. And then we are going to put, and again, in the ones I did before, I didn't do this, but I thought I would do it differently today. So we'll put the veins which go lengthwise, first of all. Like that, and having done that, then they have a lot of sort of crosswise. And this is something that you should be listening to the radio while you do this. So you take your time. I'm probably not going to take my time, but you can put them very close together along here if you want. Same on this side. Spend all morning doing this if you did it in detail. Those people who do lots and lots of botanical details in their paintings, they do that, don't they? They spend hours over it. And you could. And down here it's kind of more random. Just more random. So I think that will do for that, and then we might want to just outline some of our reeds a little bit so that it kind of matches dragonfly. You shouldn't really have, I mean, there are not, I'm not saying that there are rules about this, of course, but it usually looks better if you use consistency throughout your painting. So if you, there's a bit of masking fluid there. So if you outline dragonfly, you might want to just slightly at least outline the reeds. Some of them, if not all of them. Okay. So I think that will do. We could do a lot more, but I'm not going to. Could make these segments a bit more shaped, but you don't have to. If you feel happy with what you've achieved when you get to that point, that's fine. You could, if you wanted to and you felt you needed to, you could find a white pen and you can add a bit more white in places if you wanted to, but I don't really think it's all that necessary. What I would suggest you don't do is try to fill in the gaps where you've left gaps where there was masking fluid, because I think it's probably better if you just leave those, because it gives it a bit more room to breathe. But we could put in a little bit of spatter into the sky, and I think I probably would be inclined not to do white because we don't always want to make it look like snow, but we could put a bit of purple spatter up here, for example, and down here, which I think probably does add, but just don't overdo it. This is what you could call a semi-abstract kind of background. It doesn't really look like the real thing, but that doesn't matter, does it? Because, you know, it's just meant to look nice. So if you like that, that's great. Have a go at this. And I'll put the sketch up, I think, on this one, probably, because it's not always that easy. I've taken years to learn how to draw these things, and I'm still not sure, but there we are. And I will let you go now. Please don't forget to go to the channel, go to the website, and enjoy yourself. So that's it. I'll say bye-bye for now, everybody. Bye-bye.